Welcome to the Jasmine Podcast.
You know, if you look out the window of a high-speed bullet train, everything outside just becomes a blur.
Oh, absolutely. You just see these indistinct streaks of green and gray.
Right. And intellectually, you know, there are trees and houses and entire landscapes out there.
But your eyes physically cannot process them at that velocity. It's just too much.
Yeah, you're moving so incredibly fast that the details of the world simply disappear. You might arrive at your destination in record time, but, well, your mind couldn't capture the beauty of the journey.
Or the reality of it, really.
Exactly. And living in the year 2026, that feels like the perfect physical representation of how most of us are moving through our days.
It really is. I mean, we are living in an era of relentless speed. The modern world optimizes for efficiency above all else.
Right. Faster is always better.
That's the mindset, yeah. We are constantly pressured to move faster, work faster, and crucially, for you listening right now, learn faster. Everything is measured by how quickly we can get to the end result.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're exploring some truly captivating notes on slow living in a fast world, specifically focusing on a concept called sensory awakening.
And this is such an important topic.
It is, and we are looking at this specifically through the lens of your language journey. As an English learner, you are navigating this fast-paced world while trying to master a complex skill.
And because this topic is about slowing down, we are going to, model that today.
Yeah, deliberately.
Exactly. We are intentionally keeping the pace deliberate, we're keeping the vocabulary accessible, and we're avoiding heavy jargon. The ideas we are digging into today aren't just about lifestyle choices.
Right, they're much deeper than that.
They are about the actual mechanics of how you absorb information, and how slowing down is the ultimate antidote to the numbness of modern life.
Let's start with a striking observation from the notes. The author writes that we consume food, we consume content, we even consume people.
Yeah, that word consume, it's heavy.
It really sounds so mechanical.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of paints a picture of a machine just burning through coal to keep the engine running.
What's fascinating here is the psychological shift behind that word. When we consume, we are operating strictly in survival mode.
Just like that bullet train.
Yes, exactly like the train. We are taking things in as quickly as possible merely to get to the next moment. We eat a meal while scrolling through emails, barely chewing, just to stop the biological signal of hunger.
Right, or we swipe through hundreds of short videos consuming content without retaining any of it.
And we even consume people, like treating a barista simply as a coffee dispensing function rather than a human being.
It makes everything and everyone feel disposable.
Exactly that. The text contrasts this automated consumption with the art of savoring. To savor is defined here as consciously slowing down the process of perception until you can actually feel the texture of life.
The texture of life. I love that phrasing. It implies friction, doesn't it?
It does.
Like, life isn't a perfectly smooth, frictionless screen. It has bumps and curves. But I want to push back on this a little bit.
For sure. Go ahead.
Because I think a lot of people listening might feel a sense of friction with this idea. In a world that is completely built for speed, isn't slowing down a massive disadvantage?
How do you mean?
Well, think about a marathon runner. If I am in the middle of a race and I am desperately dehydrated, I don't, savor my water.
Right, of course not.
I gulp it down as fast as I can just to survive. In 2026, with the sheer volume of emails and media we face, aren't we all just trying to survive a flood of information?
That's a really fair point.
So how does slowing down help us when we just need to get things done?
Well, that is a highly practical question, and the marathon analogy highlights the core issue here. Gulping water is an act of pure survival, but we have to ask ourselves, is survival the only goal of a human life?
I mean, I hope not.
Right, and the notes point out a staggering reality about our current context in 2026. Artificial intelligence can now generate 1,000 images in the time it takes you to blink.
It's unbelievable.
It can translate a book in a millisecond. Because of this overwhelming superhuman speed, speed itself is no longer valuable.
Oh, because speed is cheap now. Machines have cornered the market on fast.
Precisely, which means human value has fundamentally shifted. The source text argues that because machines own speed, things that are handmade and things that are slow, well, they now carry a spiritual weight.
A spiritual weight.
Yeah, they have a deep, almost sacred value to us because they require human time and human intention. They cannot be mass-produced.
This directly explains why we are seeing the rise of the slow movement right now. And for you listening, the slow movement is a cultural shift towards slowing down life's pace.
It's a really powerful shift.
It's people realizing that faster doesn't mean better, and consciously choosing to step out of the race.
It's a rebellion against convenience, really. Choosing to cook a meal from scratch instead of ordering delivery. The friction of chopping the vegetables forces your mind into the present moment.
Yeah, it demands your attention.
And in return, it gives you a sense of grounding.
So if society is starting to push for this slow movement, why is it so incredibly hard for us as individuals to actually do it?
That's the big question.
What is physically stopping us from just putting our phones down and being present? The source suggests that all this modern speed leads to a literal numbness.
And this raises an important question about our biology. We need to talk about sensory overload.
Okay, sensory overload.
Yeah, sensory overload happens when one or more of your senses are overstimulated. Imagine your typical morning. The digital alarm blares. You immediately see the bright light of your screen. You're reading intense global news.
Hearing traffic outside.
All while drinking highly caffeinated, artificial tasting coffee.
It's an absolute assault on the nervous system.
It is. Your brain is a processing engine. And when it receives too much input all at once, the amygdala, which is the brain's threat center, gets overwhelmed.
So it's trying to protect us.
Exactly. To protect you from short-circuiting, the brain literally creates a filter. It shuts down your capacity to feel deeply. It dulls your receptors.
Wow.
That is the numbness the text is warning us about. You are touching the world, but you can't feel it.
Okay, so if our brains are physically shutting down to protect us, how do we reverse the process? How do we break that filter?
The author introduces sensory awakening. It's the intentional practice of waking up your sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch by focusing on one thing at a time.
I love the example they use for this.
The peach.
Yeah, the notes use this beautiful poetic example. It's about eating a peach and actually tasting the sunlight that grew it.
Tasting the sunlight. It's such a great image.
It really sounds wonderful, but let's break down the mechanics of that. How does slowing down actually change the taste of a peach?
Well, when you consume a peach quickly while looking at a screen, your brain only has the bandwidth to register sugar and juice.
Because it's distracted.
Right. But when you remove the distractions and slow down your chewing, your prefrontal cortex comes back online. You start noticing the soft fuzz on the skin. You feel the physical warmth of the fruit.
You're fully experiencing it.
Exactly. Your brain has the time to access memories and concepts. You realize this fruit took months to form on a branch, absorbing rain and soil.
You're not just eating a fruit. You're experiencing a visceral connection to time and nature. And now that word, visceral, is key here.
It's a fantastic word for English learners to know.
A visceral experience is a deep inward feeling in your body, rather than just an intellectual thought in your head. It's a gut feeling.
Think about listening to a piece of music and suddenly getting shivers down your arms. That physical reaction is a visceral experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Tasting the history of the peach is visceral. It pulls you completely out of the numbness.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The source text makes a fascinating pivot here. It notes that sensory awakening isn't just about food or nature. It applies to human communication.
Yes, this is a brilliant connection.
It argues that in a true conversation, silence is as important as the words. In a world that never, ever stops making noise, valuing silence is a radical act.
It really is. We have developed a cultural allergy to silence.
A cultural allergy? Wow.
Yeah, when there is a pause in a conversation, we panic. We rush to fill it with words, any words, because silence feels unproductive or awkward. We treat conversation like a tennis match where the ball must constantly be hit back and forth.
But the text is telling us that silence is the space where meaning actually lives.
Yes, because silence is the echo chamber of the words. It is the space where your brain processes the nuance of what was just said.
That's so true.
If you tell me something deeply personal and I immediately start talking, I haven't heard you. I've just consumed your words. But if I let a few seconds of silence pass, I'm feeling the visceral impact of your statement.
You are giving the words the space to actually land.
Exactly. Without silence, there is no texture to the communication.
So let's bring this directly to the person listening right now. Let's connect this idea of silence, slowness, and visceral experience to your personal goals.
I think that's incredibly relevant.
Because you are listening to this because you are actively engaging with the English language. But the standard advice out there is usually about speed, right? Like learn 100 words a day, master grammar in a month.
hacks and shortcuts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how does the philosophy of slow living change the way a person studies a language?
The source makes a brilliant distinction here between merely learning a word and truly inhabiting it.
Inhabiting, like moving into a habitat, living inside of it.
Right. When you just learn a word, you are memorizing a dictionary definition. You are staring at a flashcard, cramming it into your short-term memory to pass a test or to get a functional point across quickly.
It's a transaction.
But to inhabit a word means you move inside it. You explore its edges, its architecture, its emotional depth.
And to do that, you have to do what the text calls savor the nuance. Nuance refers to those subtle, tiny differences in meaning or feeling between two similar things.
Like the classic example of house versus home.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the difference between the word house and the word home. They both technically describe a place where you live, but the nuance is massive.
It changes the whole feeling.
A house is a physical structure made of wood and glass, but a home carries warmth. It carries family, safety, and a sense of belonging. Savoring the nuance means you appreciate that subtle warmth.
It's feeling the texture of the word.
But I want to explore this on a really practical level because, honestly, if I am a student sitting at a desk with a textbook trying to learn English after a long day of work, how do I actually do this?
It sounds a bit abstract, I know.
Right. How do I inhabit a word instead of just memorizing it? Staring at a vocabulary list and just trying really hard to feel it sounds frustrating.
That's a very fair point. It's not about just staring harder at the page. The source text gives us a concrete blueprint for this. It says you inhabit a word slowly by understanding 3 specific dimensions.
And what are they?
Its history, its weight, and its vibration.
Its history, its weight, and its vibration. Let's really take our time with those 3 mechanics, starting with history.
Words are not invented out of thin air. They have pasts. Looking up the etymology, the origin of a word completely changes how you see it.
Do you have an example?
Sure, take the word companion. You might just memorize it as friend. But if you look at its history, it comes from the Latin roots commune, meaning with, and pan, meaning bread.
With bread.
Yeah, a companion is literally the person you share your bread with.
Oh, wow. That changes everything. It's no longer just a synonym for friend. It has an entire story of human survival and community baked right into it.
Yes, and once you know that history, you will never forget the word. You have inhabited it. The second dimension is the word's weight.
How does a word have weight?
It's the physical mouthfeel, the phonetic reality of speaking it. Some words feel very light and casual, almost airy. Think of the word chat.
Chat. Yeah, it pops right out.
Right, it pops off the front of your lips quickly. It weighs very little. But think of a word like declare or solemn. Those words require more breath.
They resonate in your throat.
They physically take longer to say. You have to recognize how heavy a word feels in your mouth before you decide to use it in a sentence.
That is fascinating. Paying attention to the physical muscle movement as part of the meaning. And what about the third dimension? It's vibration.
Vibration is the emotional tone, the invisible energy the word carries in a culture. Does the word vibrate with joy? Does it carry a melancholy hum? Is it an aggressive word?
Give me an example of vibration in action.
Think about the words childish versus childlike. Historically, they both relate to children. Physically, they weigh about the same, but their vibration is completely different.
I see what you mean.
Childish vibrates with annoyance. It implies someone is being immature or petty, but childlike vibrates with wonder and innocence. If you use the wrong word, you are sending out the wrong emotional frequency.
So understanding the history, the weight, and the vibration of a word takes time. It requires you to sit with it, to maybe speak it aloud a few times, to research its roots.
Yes, you can't rush
It
it.
transforms a random collection of letters into a visceral part of your own voice.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is why mastering a language is the ultimate handmade craft.
Oh, circling back to the spiritual weight of things.
Exactly. Just like carving a wooden bowl or knitting a complex pattern, inhabiting a new language requires immense patience. It requires you to work with the raw material of your own mind slowly and carefully. It is an act of creation that artificial intelligence simply cannot do for you.
That's the core of it, isn't it? A machine can translate a sentence from your native language to English in 1 millisecond, but a machine cannot inhabit the English language.
It can't feel it.
A machine cannot feel the visceral emotion of a word or understand the spiritual weight of its history. Only you, a living, breathing human being, can actually connect with another human being through those words.
Which is an incredibly empowering realization. It means your language journey is not a chore to be rushed through so you can check a box. It is a daily opportunity for sensory awakening.
This has been such a rich journey today. We started by looking at the trap of our modern hyperfast world. We explored the danger of sensory overload, how moving too fast and consuming too much forces our brains to literally numb out the world to protect us.
We then explored the antidote. We talked about the slow movement and the physical necessity of sensory awakening.
Just noticing things again.
Slowing down your perception, removing the distractions until your brain has the capacity to feel the texture of life again, to taste the history in a piece of fruit.
And finally brought it directly to your desk, to your daily practice with English, moving away from the mechanical consumption of flashcards and moving toward the slow, beautiful process of savoring the nuance.
Which is the fun part, really.
It is. Inhabiting words by exploring their history, feeling their physical weight, and tuning into their emotional vibration.
You are not just downloading a tool for communication, you are expanding your capacity to experience the world.
So, what does this all mean for you tomorrow morning when you open your notebook or start your English practice? It means you have a choice. You can rush through a vocabulary list on your phone while drinking your coffee and checking the news, treating the language like just another piece of content to consume.
A blur out the train window.
Or
Yeah.
you can choose to step off the bullet train. You can treat the language like a slow, beautiful, visceral experience.
It means granting yourself the permission to be slow. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, something that builds on the premise we discussed about conversation and silence.
Please.
We often measure language skills by speed. How fast can you recall a word? How quickly can you respond? But if silence is truly where the meaning lands, perhaps the truest sign of fluency in a new language isn't how quickly you can talk.
What is it then?
Perhaps the ultimate sign of fluency is how comfortably and how confidently you can share a quiet moment with a native speaker without feeling the panic to rush.
Fluency is the comfort of shared silence. That is incredible, because if you can sit in silence with someone in a new language and just feel the texture of life around you, you are no longer just looking out the window of a bullet train at a blurry world.
Not at all.
You have stepped off the train. You are standing in the landscape, feeling the wind, and finally truly seeing the view. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take your time and keep savoring the journey.